Into the depths. Sarah sat in her cramped, dimly lit apartment, hunched over her laptop, the cold glow of the screen reflecting off her tired eyes. It was well past midnight. The only sounds were the distant hum of the city outside and the faint whir of her laptop's fan. Her room was cluttered with tech gadgets, empty coffee mugs, and scattered notes. Neon lights from her sign flickering outside, casting eerie shadows that danced across the walls. Her mouse hovered over a link on the screen, its label glowing ominously. Enter the depths. She bit her lip, hesitant. There was something unnerving about it, but curiosity was a powerful thing. She had heard stories about the dark web, the forbidden corners of the internet where the rules didn't apply. What could be lurking beyond this link? Should I? She whispered to herself. With a shaky breath, she clicked. For a moment nothing happened, then the screen glitched. Strange symbols and corrupted images began to flash across her monitor. Her heart skipped a beat as a shiver ran down her spine. The laptop froze, its image flickering with broken code and distorted figures. Sarah leaned closer, frowning. What was happening? Was this a virus? Her reflection in the dark window beside her caught her eye. She blinked, and her heart raced. Her reflection wasn't moving. She turned her head slightly, but the image of herself in the window just stood there, unmoving, staring back with her cold, vacant eyes. A chill swept through the room, and her breath became shallow. Panic rose in her chest as her pulse quickened. What the hell? She muttered, glancing back at the screen. Suddenly she felt it, a cold, unseen presence in the room with her. She glanced around, but nothing was there. No one. The shadow seemed darker, more oppressive. Her reflection in the window still hadn't moved. It was just watching her. A grim, unblinking gaze that felt far too real. Her hands jerked suddenly, moving without her control. They typed rapidly, entering lines of code into the laptop. She gasped and tried to pull them away, but they wouldn't stop. No, stop, she shouted, her voice trembling. She tried to resist, but it was useless. Her fingers continued to type against her will. The cold in the room deepened, and her reflection in the window twisted, becoming darker, more distorted. The walls of her apartment began to shift, bending inwards as if they were closing in on her. The glow of the screen became blinding. Sarah's heart pounded in her chest as she screamed, but no sound came out. The world around her was warping, reality itself seeming to crack and break apart. Then everything shifted. The room was gone. She found herself floating in a vast empty space. It wasn't a room, nor was it any place she recognized. It was a digital void, a dark, cold landscape made of shifting code and corrupted data. Strange figures wandered aimlessly in the distance. More were human-shaped but lacked faces. Others were nothing more than glitching shadows. She stumbled, trying to find her balance on the unstable ground beneath her. It felt like she was standing on thin air, the surface constantly shifting beneath her feet. "Where am I?" she whispered, her voice trembling. She turned, her eyes scanning the desolate landscape, but there was no answer. Only cold and oppressive silence. Yet she felt it again, that cold presence lurking just behind her. She spun around, but nothing was there. Still, she knew something was watching her, something was waiting, and then it appeared. From the shadows, a grotesque figure emerged. It was unlike anything she had ever seen before. Creature made of static and broken code, its form flickering as if it couldn't fully hold its shape. Its body was twisted, mass of distorted human features, glitching and shifting unnaturally. It was terrifying, and yet it felt like it had been there all along, watching her from the very moment she clicked that cursed link. It reached out her hand, its fingers long and thin, warped with jagged edges. Sarah stumbled back, her breath hitching in terror. "No, no," she screamed, trying to run, but it was too late. The creature's hand touched her, and instantly her body began to pixelate. Her flesh disintegrated, breaking apart into tiny squares of digital data. She looked down at her hands in horror as they flickered and faded, her form becoming part of the corrupted world around her. Her scream echoed, distorted and broken by the glittering void. Her face, frozen in terror, flickered for a moment before she vanished entirely, consumed by the darkness. Sarah was gone. Her body had become part of the dark web. Another's lost soul, trapped forever in the depths.